Colleagues, today's the big day. This is AB 74, the actual budget bill. It's the spending plan for the residents of the state of California. It's the spending plan that is informed and fueled by and funded by all of our hardworking constituents who entrust us with the decision-making authority to spend their money wisely, cautiously, and appropriately. And so I'm proud to stand before you and bring before you for a vote today AB 74. It's our budget bill for 1920, and it's the result of over 70 budget committee, subcommittee, conference committee hearings over the past 6 months, as well as negotiations with the Assembly and the administration. That document accounts for hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of discussion, debate, compromise, and ultimately agreement. And I'm proud to stand before you as your budget chair to present it to you for your consideration today. As you're aware, the budget typically includes multiple bills and trailers, and so today we are voting on the budget bill in chief, and next week trailers and additional bills will be before you that support and augment the operations and the delivery of services that the budget bill in chief details today. You know, when I decided to run for office in 2008, it was a very different California. It was a time when California residents couldn't count on a June 15th budget. As you know, we had a 2/3 voting requirement. We were in a deep, deep recession. And Californians hurt as a result of those protracted negotiations. I was running a nonprofit organization, and we didn't get our checks from the state. Child care providers went without. I was in a position as an employer to decide if I tapped into the reserves of my nonprofit to make payroll or not. So many of us remember those experiences when the state was in deep recession, and tragically we had to cut critical, life-sustaining services to California residents. We cut deep into K-12 education. We cut $1 billion out of early care and education. Our CSUs and community colleges and UCs are still trying to catch up from the cuts they experienced. We cut Medi-Cal so deeply that we limited the number of doctor visits a Medi-Cal recipient could have per month. We eliminated life-sustaining and saving services. Well, colleagues, I stand here before you today to say we are no longer in that space as a state. And we all should be very proud of the partnership we have fostered with the current administration, the previous administration, our colleagues in the Assembly, and most importantly, the people of California, to bring forward a budget today that's very different than it was 10 years ago. A budget that I can say, as you cast your vote today, all of us can be proud of, can go back to our districts and be proud to talk about it with our constituents and look ourselves in the mirror and say, today we did a good thing as sitting members of this House on behalf of California residents. So again, today is a very important step, and we look forward to the final agreement that will do many good things, but here are some highlights from my perspective. It will strengthen the middle class with $460 million in small business tax cuts. It will provide the highest levels of school funding in state history, will increase enrollment. We will increase enrollment to some of our littlest Californians by expanding seats in the early care and education, the child care sector, and to our future leaders by increasing enrollment in CSU and UC. We will lower health care costs for middle-income Californians. We are providing needed improvements for the Department of Developmental Disabilities and the services they render for California families. We are lowering taxes for lower-income California workers and improving access to health care. And finally, we dedicate ongoing funding for safe and affordable drinking water without any middle-class tax increases. Finally, the budget deal will retain the state's ongoing commitment to fiscal prudence and stability, with additional payments to retire budgetary debt and historic reserve levels. We've set ourselves in the state on a path that we've not been on before historically, where we were victims of an economy that ebbs and flows, and therefore state investments and spending that ebbed and flowed. We now have savings accounts, imagine that, where we will help protect the general fund and protect the services California residents need in the event of a future recession. That you should be proud of. So again, colleagues, this budget is bold and responsible. As you know, we're within the 72-hour period before June 15th, and so no additional changes are able to be made to this budget to meet that required deadline. So we are voting on the budget in chief today. We all know that additional negotiations are occurring between the three principal parties, our leader here in the Senate, the leader in the Assembly, and the administration. But I am confident in these ongoing negotiations and know that as we look at trailer bill language next week, we will continue to make sure that all California residents, regardless of where they live, regardless of their low income or middle income, and for some, regardless of their immigration status, are going to benefit from the fruit of our collective labor. The fact that we have a general fund that is healthy and reflects the needs of California residents. As our leader is working hard to complete the final three-party deal, I'm hopeful that we'll be back here voting on the rest of the budget deal, those additional trailer bills, very, very soon. However, the work to finalize the deal will continue through the weekend, but today, colleagues, we have the opportunity to vote on the budget bill in chief that reflects hours of work and dedicated service, reflects the true values reflected in all of our districts by all of our constituents. With that, colleagues, I ask for an aye vote of AB 74. Thank you very much, Madam President. And let me start by thanking all of you who have thanked us, who've served you through this budget process. I want to thank my pro tem for giving me the true honor of serving as your budget chair. The vice chair of the budget committee always says it's the most important work we as a body do, and I couldn't agree more. And with that, regardless of your perspective about the role of government, because many of us perhaps disagree, we can all agree that when Californians are at risk, in trouble, have lost their homes, their entire communities, when their back's against the wall, they call us and they look to us. And this budget includes a responsive reaction and support to just those Californians. And none of us should forget that. The work of government is service. That's the work government produces. It's either through technology or man or woman power. And so it's our job to guarantee that California residents can rely on their state government and state departments to have trained personnel to meet their needs. Someone mentioned the Department of Motor Vehicles. It would be irresponsible of us to choke that department to prevent them from providing the critical service that every California resident requires. So it's our responsibility to hold them accountable, to engage in oversight, and to partner with that department as well as all the state departments to navigate through the challenges they may be experiencing to get to a point where they can provide excellent quality service to every California resident. That's our job to do. And while we can't see the future, our job is to plan for it to the best of our abilities based on the information we have today and our experience from the past. Paying down debt, helping school districts with their pension liability, investing in our future, quite literally, our children, And we are doing that in this budget. Because you know, colleagues, you've heard me say before, children don't get do-overs. They don't get to still be 3 years old waiting for us to figure out how to get them a seat in an early care and education classroom. They don't get to stay in the 5th grade while we figure out how to make room for them in middle school. They don't get to stay in high school while we figure out how to make sure we have additional enrollment slots for them in their publicly funded colleges and universities. You know, with all due respect, colleagues, I must say that it's disingenuous to ask for favor in a budget that you don't support. I look forward to drilling down to the specifics next week as we discuss trailer bills, which are the spending plan for this budget, for things like 911 services to protect those who live in rural California, tax breaks to small businesses who employ more California residents than the big businesses our colleagues claim on the other side of the aisle are leaving California in droves. Finally, colleagues, there is no pork in this budget. It contains investments in infrastructure and services, a good, responsible use of one-time dollars to meet the needs of your constituents. And with regard to timeliness, well, I was happy as budget chair to receive a letter as late as Friday from a colleague who needed investments in his district, a district who'd been ravaged by natural disaster. And I'm proud to say that the support for that community is contained in this budget. So you're welcome. And your constituents are welcome from those of us who will cast a vote today that acknowledges their needs today and tomorrow. We've heard about K Sarah Sarah and the fact that that was a message from a mother to a daughter. Well, I'll share with you all my perspective about a poem written by Langston Hughes entitled Mother to Son. And in the poem, this mother says, "Life for me ain't been no crystal stair. There have been patches in the staircase. There have been places where there have landings. I've had to turn. It's been rough spots. But in short, she challenges that son to just keep climbing because she wants him to climb to a better life than she experienced." This, colleagues, with investments in after-school programs and museums and parks and green spaces, reflects an opportunity for a better life for the children coming behind us, and a better life and a better California for all of us to grow old in. It's been my pleasure to serve with all of you in building a budget that we can all be proud of. And with that, I ask for your aye vote of AB 74.
Ayes 29, noes 11, the measure passes.